Hey everyone, welcome to my new and improved CMS development series. I'm Tilly and I'm super excited to have you join me on this journey as we dive into building a feature-rich content management system using Livewire free, Filament free, and PHP 8.2. This series is a reboot of my course from last year, but with even more features, more depth, and more fun. In this series, we will be creating a comprehensive content management system that includes all the modern features you would expect. We will cover everything from blog posts with a media curator to categories and tags, a page builder, custom navigation menus, and even custom form components. And that's not all. We will also be integrating a comment system using wire comments, which I created. Each video in this series will range from 20 to 60 seconds, packed with hands-on coding tips and best practices. Whether you're an experienced developer or just starting out, this series will provide you with the skills and knowledge to build a robust and scalable content management system. We will start by setting up our development environment and then dive into creating a blog post and with a media creator. You'll learn how to manage categories and tags effectively, build custom navigation menus, and create dynamic pages with our page builder. By the end of this series, you'll have a powerful content management system that you can customize and expand upon for your own projects or clients. So grab your favorite coding beverage and let's get started on this exciting journey together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on an update. So let's get started with creating a new project in here, and we want to call this wire content. I am going to use Jetstream for this project and I'm going to use Livewire. We want to dark mode enabled and we will set up email verification later on. So for now we will leave that. I'm going to use PES as the testing framework. I'm going to initialize a GitHub repository. So for this series I'm going to use PostgreSQL. However, you can use MySQL. You may just have to modify the migration slightly depending on how it's written, but it should mostly work and you should be able to go through this series without any major issues, and it would just be slight or small modifications. I'm going to leave out running migrations for now, and I'm going to do that later after I've set up my database configurations. So now that the installer is working its magic, let's head into our PHP Storm, which is the IDE I'll be using throughout this series to develop this content management system. Okay, now that we've got this set up, let's go ahead and take a look at our application folder structure. So in here we're using Jetstream and we have Fortify set up in here. So for HTTP, we're going to not really use controllers much because we're going to be using Livewire primarily throughout this series. And for database migrations, we can pretty much leave everything as it is in here for now, so that's fine by me. So what I want to go ahead and do first and foremost is I want to go ahead and make sure that we have the right database configuration set up. So let's head into our database editor, Table Plus, which is what I'm going to be using throughout this series, and take a look at the database and set it up now. So I've gone ahead and created the table in here, which I've called wire content. In Table Plus, you just go and click on this icon here, and then you click new, and then you just enter the database name. Table Plus is not a free one, but there is other applications you can use, such as SQL Ace, which will help you out with having a graphical user interface to manage your database content. So with that sorted, we can now go ahead and migrate our database. So I'm going to go ahead and just migrate this here. And for now we're actually getting an error. So the reason for this is because I'm using a tiny bit different setup than what Laravel does. So that's why I didn't migrate in the installation process, because I'm using DB Engine, which allows me to create a database, but the username is Postgres and not root. So that's why it will complain for me in this case. So now that we have all of this set up, we can essentially go ahead and install Filament free. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, let's go ahead and install Filament PHP. So let's go in and just copy this into our clipboard, and all we're doing here is we're just setting up a panel. In my case, I'm going to be calling this panel admin. And I would highly recommend as well to go and start a GitHub repository on GitHub as well. So after that, what we want to do is we want to create a super user. So let's go ahead and create a super user now. So I'm just going to go in and add it here. There we go. So with that sorted, let's go back into Filament PHP documentation. And I actually want to just head back in to the plugins page. And we want to actually have a curator for this CMS. So let's use this package here, which is free of use. And I think it's a brilliant package that we can use throughout this series. So let's go ahead and install it. So to get started, let's go in and compose require this. Great. So what I want to go ahead and do now is I want to just go ahead and check our panel here. So let's go into wire content.test/admin. And while we're at it, let's also make sure we run dev here so we can render everything properly without any errors. So I'm just going to log in. There we go. Saved password, that's fine. And as you can see in here, this still works as expected. There's nothing much in here. So let's go back in here and install the curator properly. So I'm going to open a new terminal. And I would like to run the migrations as well. That's fine by me. And we also want to install Cropper.js. And we also want to follow the theme guide. This is one of the things that if we don't follow this properly, it will look a bit strange on the side. So I think it's best to follow the admin theme page here. Because if we don't set this properly, you will essentially not have the things rendering properly and so on. So what we want to go ahead and do after we have generated this theme here is inside the input array of void.config.js, we want to add in the theme. So in this case, I'm going to go into void.config.js and I'm just going to make sure it gets rendered here. Secondly, we also want to use this bit here inside our admin panel provider, which you can find by going inside providers, Filament, admin panel provider. And anywhere here you can just add in this bit here, and unless you have a custom name for it, you can just copy it and paste it like I've done now. And with that sorted, it should now work just fine for at least having our custom admin panel. We still need to set up a few things for the curator plugin, but if we just head back in now, and in here we just want to copy and paste this into our themes page here, and this will have been generated for us inside resources, CSS, Filament, themes.css. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the vendor page here. So all I want to do in here is I just want to say /vendor. And it may be an extra one, but let's see how it renders now. So let's re-render this. And let's see how the page renders. Okay, so it fails to find that directory. Let's go back. Let's just try to see if we can do /vendor instead. Okay, so let's try to see if we can install Cropper.js again. And I think it's because we have to obviously go to node modules. That's why it didn't work. So with that sorted, let's head back in here. So inside our tailwind config.js file in here, we want to make sure we also add this bit in here. And I think everything else is just really publishing the configuration. And I don't think we need anything else before the next videos where we're going to be setting up the relationship between the article model and the curator. So with that sorted, let's go ahead and also make sure that we are able to create an article model. So let's create a model here called article with a migration, and in here we want to have a few different things. So what I want to go ahead and do here is I want to go into the migrations folder, and I want to add a title, and a slug which we want to be unique, we want to add content, and also what we want to do as well is we want to have a relationship, and in this case it's going to be with the create media table. So we're going to set up a relationship here. Along with that, we're also going to enable the user to determine if it's published, if it's archived, or if it's a draft using enums. So we will look at that as well. So let's set up this foreign ID here to the media relationship table. Alright, so for this media ID, we just want to call this media ID. And in here, we just want to have this as nullable in case you don't want to have a thumbnail, constraint to the media table, and null on delete in case we delete the picture and it doesn't then destroy the article and breaks things. So for now, that should be everything we need. We will look at archiving and draft posts later on. So let's go ahead and just migrate this. We're going to use an SEO package to manage the SEO separately, so we'll keep this table quite neat and simple for now. So let's go ahead and migrate this, and then inside our models folder, let's go into the article model and create a protected fillable. And in here we want to have title, slug, content, and we also want to have media ID. We're also going to allow people to obviously create categories and or tags. You can do either, and yeah, that should be everything for this. So now we're basically able to store articles and so on in the database. So with that sorted, let's head into our console and make a filament resource for the article resource here, and let's head into our article resource. Which you will be able to find, by the way, in Filament resources, article resource. And in here, this is where we're going to be creating our filters, manipulating our table to fit our need, and so on. So for now, let's go ahead and close this creator page off. And you can see we have this articles one in here. We want to be able to add articles as well. So let's go ahead in here and add in a text input. We're going to have this as title. Later on, we're going to be creating our own custom slug field as well. But for now, I'm just going to call this slug. We're going to be using later on as well the tip tab editor. But for now, let's just see if we can be able to create an article before we start working on the more advanced features. And then for the curator, we just want to have a curator picker here. and pass this in as a media ID. So at the moment this will be a very basic page, but let's go ahead and see how this looks like. So I'm going to call this test, test, and test, and let's go ahead and add a media here. And currently this doesn't seem to be working fully, so let's see what's going on here. So the button isn't fully working, so that's a bit strange. So let's go ahead and run dev again. Let's go in and take a look at the documentation. So we just want to head to Filament PHP, plugins, and search for the curator here. In here we can then go ahead and see we have a curator picker, and what we want to add in here is really not an extreme amount of stuff. And I think where we actually have gone wrong is because we need to register a plugin. So let's just go ahead and do that in our admin panel provider, where we will have a call a function called plugins. And for now, let's take a look at if this works. It does. Perfect. So if I go ahead now and take a look, I can then say test, test, and test. And let's add a file. So at the moment, I'm just gonna select this as the image. Gonna close down here and click insert and create. And this seems to work fine. So if we go ahead and edit again, you can see we have this image here. So another thing we also want to work on is how can we add the page. We can say register navigation to true. And I think we actually can just get rid of this because it's by default set to true. So let's go back and you can see we have an image here. So if we go to grid view, we also have that option. We can delete it, we can go back to list view, we can edit it. You can see we have title, caption, description, and alt text, which we can all get here. We can add multiple curations and we can upload a new image. So with that basic setup now, let's head into our article resource, and in here I just want to have a text column which will have the title and a slug for now. If we go back in here, we can find a curator column. You want to make sure you import this class. And I'm just going to say media ID. And you can see this shows up here. So I'm going to actually have that at the beginning because I would prefer this to be at the beginning. Let's make sure we have this as searchable. And this one is searchable as well. And now we're actually able to search. Obviously we only have one result at the moment, so it's not the best demonstration of it, but that's how we're basically able to create an article using the media curator here. Able to upload media here and either pick it up in here, or we can just add new media in the articles model here. Let's go ahead and make sure we also have a good icon here. So if we go back in now, you can see we have this nice newspaper icon here. So if we go ahead now and go into wire content.test, you can see we have this dashboard link and we have the welcome page. I personally don't need or want a welcome page here, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. And I'm gonna go into web.php, and in here I'm just gonna have this point to home page, but I want to create a live wire component here. Now throughout this series I want to essentially have a nice structure here so that we can easily find the components. And I want to just have pages and home. And by doing that, we should be able to instead get rid of this bit here and just call this home class. So I'm setting in the home page here using this part of the application, and I'm going to import the class here so you can see this in here now. So with the home page set up, we should just be able to go into Livewire folder, pages, home. But before we end this, I also want to go ahead into our home pages here, and in here, first and foremost, I want to make sure we are adding in the view here so that we can properly ensure that it has a type hint. And then I want to go ahead and say layout, and I think we can say layout setup. So let's go ahead and refresh here. So that seems to work fine. So let's see that this is working by just adding in some text in here. There we go. So we now have a home page here where we can add in all the content and render articles and so on, which we're going to be looking at a later video. I just wanted to make sure we have this set up as well. So for the navigation menu, we also want to modify this. So in the next video, we're going to be working on modifying the navigation menu and start to add categories and a few other features as well. But that's all for this video, and thank you very much for watching it. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.